So good morning and good afternoon, dear team. Today we have a very special topic to discuss. It's managing reputation in the face of cyber attacks. And so, of course, cyber crisis is now one of the core reasons why the organization has a lot of risks. And today we have Sophie and Marie-Odile. And I pass floor to them to present this subject to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Good morning, everyone. So every cyber attack is a reputation crisis waiting to happen. So we will discuss that with Marie-Odile. I'm pleased to introduce Marie-Odile Crinon. She's a recognized senior expert in cybersecurity, risk and crisis management. She had a career within IBM, and she founded in 2014 MRC2 consulting firm specialized in cyber risk, crisis management, and organizational resilience. She's been advising senior leadership teams across sectors such as finance, energy, industry, and defense, helping them anticipate threats, protect critical information, and respond effectively to cyber crisis. She's also a regular speaker at leading institutions and contributes to national discussions on cyber resilience in France. She serves as a colonel in the French Air and Space Force Reserve in cyber defense, and reflecting a dual perspective between civilian and military ecosystems in that topic, which is very important. And last but not least, she's also a friend, and I'm really grateful to her for contributing to this session, as the focus is particularly relevant for today's discussion on a critical point in that digital world. Cyber incidents are not just technical failures. They are reputational crises that can impact trust, governance, and business continuity.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for this introduction. And my turn to introduce you as Sophie Gaudillière, a reputation strategist. Sophie advises executive teams and at her own company called DIRCOM Strategy, a very famous company. And before that, Sophie has held roles in communication, marketing, and digital projects in organizations such as, Stellantis, Peugeot, Paris airports, and industrial SME, and energy lobbying as well. Sophie is at the intersection, of corporate communication, public affairs, and strategic positioning, and mixes in them in a business-driven approach. I would say that her goal is to structure communication strategy as a lever for performance, governance, and risk control, not just visibility, but strategy, governance, and risk control. Her friendship and her perspective join mine for today's discussion. In a world where cyber incidents immediately escalate into reputational crisis, we look through a dual lens: anticipation and response. Today we will conduct our dialogue to answer some quick questions, and you could put your question in the chat. And after the talk, if you prefer, then we will answer together with Sophie and continue our discussion to focus on specific points.
So, Marie-Odile, I think you're going to start with and make us understand what is exactly a cyber crisis.
Yeah, sure. What I like to do is just, share this slide because it's perhaps something, cyber crisis, how it looks like. You arrive at your office in the morning and you show this black screen or whatever. It means that you have no more access to your IT system, to your data, including your directory. You have no more tool to work. And you know what? It's a mess in this case. I'd like to come back to you. Okay. When it happens, that's the question, you know. It's always happen on Friday evening, during the weekend, or Christmas, or, you know, this kind of events. Why? Because the actors knows that you are not at your office. There are less people to detect the attack. There are less people to monitor, you know, the system, and after to focus on the IT system and try to recover. And it's why the cyber attack, the cyber crisis always happens during this period of weekends and day off and so on. And what is your first reaction? Our first reaction in this case, because on this blue screen or black screen, stupor. Why me? Not me, not us. Why my company? It's not possible. It will be a nightmare. And after this stupor period, it's the stress, the panic, because, you know, IT now is everywhere in your life. And the second point I like to share this morning with you is to say that everybody is concerned now by this cyber attack. The question is no more, could my company be attacked, but when and what will be the impacts? It will arrive this week, this month, this year. You know that. Why? Because whatever the risk analysis you work with, cyber risk is now part of the top 10 risk in your company. Depending on the country, business sector you work in, but it will arrive. And everybody is concerned, whatever the scenario. Either your company are directly attacked, targeted, or it's one of your subcontractor who will be attacked and will contaminate your IT system, you know. Why your subcontractor? Because could be a small companies and they are less protected, they have less budget, they have less focus on cyber security. Or you can also be a victim of a huge attack, cyber attack, against some IT partners as Oracle or Microsoft. Perhaps you remember it was in July 2024, CrowdStrike, infecting all computers running with Microsoft software. And it's not our company which has been attacked. Is a software company as CrowdStrike, Microsoft, and Oracle, contaminating all the business, all the companies. And why a cyber attack? And I would summarize saying that there are three main motives. Of course, you can mention spying, because your data, your business data, your personal data, your financial data can interest your competitors or can interest our government, depending the sector, the business you work in. You can also, spying is the first motive. The second one I like to mention is a war. It's now a reality. Please remember the beginning of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, when Russian authorities attacked the KSAT satellite. It was the first day of the war between Ukraine and Russia has decided to attack a satellite, to put down the communication. And it's now, cyber is a tool in the war now, world popular. And last but not least, the third motive, and I will say the vast majority of attack is about money. Money. Cyber is now a truly business, very well organized, with people, experts, dedicated on each activity, on each task. Some are dedicated to create the cyber attack. Some are dedicated to deploy the cyber attack. Some are dedicated to collect the ransom. Some are dedicated to educate new people on this business. You know, it's like drug. You know, when you know the business around drug, they are very specialized business. It's like a company with a subcontractor and so on to do this business. You know.
And Marie-Odile, so what are the different forms of cyber attacks that we can get?
I would say that there's two main, to simplify, because I don't want to transform this webinar in a technical one. The focus is about communication and reputation. Therefore, I will summarize and simplify, saying that there are two main type of attacks. Ransomware and DDoS. DDoS is denial of service. You know, it's you send a lot of requests to your web services, for example, to block the system, to block the website because they have too many requests at the same time. It's what we call DDoS. It's an attack, but it's not so important. It's okay. And the second one I like to mention is what we call ransomware. And it's, I would say it's the most popular attack at the moment. And there are two main consequences. The first one is the data breach, because the hacker collect your data. And the second one is the encryption of your IT systems. It means that you have no more access to your IT system. Of course, with the new technology, as AI, for example, the attacks could be more sophisticated. And that's the pain for us. You know, it's a race between the hacker and the defender with this new technology being deployed now in the IT environment, you know. And I'd like to share another example with you. Perhaps you remember it was last year, the attack against Jaguar Land Rover in UK. It has been really a nightmare, a huge attack, not only the technical part, but the consequence, because as you know that Jaguar Land Rover has a lot of subcontractors. And it means that there have been no more business for them. And the UK government has been obliged to release £1.1 billion to help the subcontractors to survive to the cyber attack against Jaguar Land Rover. And once again, I like to emphasize, you could be directly attacked, but also through one of our suppliers or connected partners. Could be a client who face a cyber attack and contaminating your IT system because you are connected with SAP or another software, you know. And a last example, just to illustrate my case. Perhaps you remember what happened within Sopra Steria. Some years ago. Sopra is a huge supplier of IT software and service for banks, for financial, system. And they faced a major cyber attack in October 2020, impacting the financial system. And the most important decision in what we call in crisis management, the golden hour, the first hours of the crisis, has been to isolate Sopra IT systems from the rest of their clients, to avoid the contamination of the financial system in France, and not only in France, and to stop the bank, and to stop the stocks, and to stop the stocks, and so on and so on. A golden hour is this first hours of the crisis, when you have to take difficult decisions as to isolate your IT system. And when you run bank activities or 24 hours, 7 days business as in industrial sector, in factories, it's quite difficult to take this kind of decision because you are in complete uncertainty of the scope and of the impacts of the cyber attack you are facing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed, Marie-Odile, I was going to say the goal is to keep the company operating first, but also we're going to have to protect trust and restore reputation fast. I already see questions and comments in the chat, and we will start also to answer those questions. So why are we talking about reputation at that point? Like we feel like it's an IT problem and we're gonna want to operate. If you, Marie-Odile,
I will share your slide.
Could you manage to? Yeah, I got a technical issue. I cannot share my screen. I don't know why. But not a cyber attack. I wanted to share that quick slide. This is, I call that the virtuous circle of communication. It could be the vicious circle. Your notoriety gets you the image when the clients, everyone like you. Then you got a reputation. It's that where trust is at stake, and only with reputation, good reputation, you can do a good business. So the reputation brick is the most important in that moment. This is where the cyber attack will really attack directly your reputation. And that's where you break that virtuous circle, and you may jeopardize not only your reputation, but next step is your business itself, actually. Thank you, Marie-Odile. I think we may go back on that. So erasing that trust brick may have a domino effect. The potential customers, as we saw, may quickly look elsewhere. But it's not only about the customer, it's also about the B2B threats that are even worse if you consider that you're going to have intellectual property at stake, research, sales data, so a lot of competitiveness consequences. Remember, the giant NVIDIA has been stolen source code in 2025. Meaning now that it's about fighting counterfeit software on the marketplace because of that cyber attack. Another perspective that has to be taken into account is the employee's perspective. So because a crisis management and the business disruption can affect their morale and generate stress and reduce motivation. After a cyber attack, the systems are down and business is jeopardized. So employees may just ask, okay, what about my wage? Will I suffer for temporary unemployment, even a job loss? So it's really spreading to a lot of stakeholders. So the most sensitive phase in protecting that reputation brick is to quickly control the narrative, as we call it in communication, where you're going to have to fight the uncertainty or even panic that will come from different sources. This is where actually you're going to have to win or maybe lose that reputation in that golden hour that Marie-Odile was already talking about.
But Sophie, my question, I understand your point on reputation, but you as a communication expert, what will be your recommendation to what to say and to whom and which channel and how to discuss with your stakeholders?
Yes, actually, that's the whole, you stated the whole plan, because the rule is, of course, it's communicating by fixing. You're not going to wait to fix the effects of the cyber attack and then tell everybody that you've done it and it's over, because first it's not going to be over so fast, and so the teams are fixing, so you don't stay in a black box. The choice of words is very important, because what are we talking about at the beginning? It's maybe just an incident? Is it a cyber attack? You showed us that there were different forms. So different terms designate different steps of knowledge in the investigation that you're going to have. So it's very important to keep a low profile and humility during this phase. But still, silence is not an option. So the first step is really to talk, actually. Talk in communications means press release, talking to customers, to suppliers. We'll see about the stakeholders. And it requires both preparedness and agility. We have the case of the Dutch Ministry of Finance in March, late March. The Dutch Ministry of Finance revealed that unauthorized access has targeted several of its internal systems, and it had a first public message where the ministry acknowledged the incident, because it's very important. It's a matter of responsibility, and stated that an investigation was underway. So far, so good. That the systems concerned had been blocked, and the initial message attested a real operational action. So that was good. Like it has to say, okay, we acknowledge that there was an incident, there was a cyber incident, cyber attack, maybe just an incident, and then you go on with the investigation. However, in the case of the Dutch Ministry of Finance, the sequence actually stopped to that single communique, and with no public update. So then you had the impression that not visible effort was going on, and actually the reassurance didn't really come, because it was like, okay, we're working on that, and bye-bye, and then we go back to our black box. So that was a really freezing uncertainty, and the void aggravating the factor, and there was bad press about that. So the containment is the first step, but there is a recovery narrative. So it's not only about acknowledging and saying that we are working on that. It's about also still support the recovery. To whom we are going to speak, of course, the Ministry of Finance, so we'll talk to everyone, but not only to the public, because there is a preparedness about that. We're going to call that the matrix, stakeholders and messaging. If Marie-Odile, you can help me with that slide, I'm going to show you that map I use with my clients, who is just putting down a single question: is in that ecosystem, who is relevant to us, and in what priority? So it's not a surprise that all the stakeholders you are connected to one or several of those stakeholders. If you are a startup, you're going to have more the shareholders and investors. But if you are a big subcontractor, you got to have a lot of suppliers and customer side in B2B. So that map, and there's a lot of details to be shown in each block, but basically you get to prepare such a map and have your names written down next to each block in anticipation of any crisis, actually. But the cyber is very important, because that's where you're going to find those media, how you're going to talk to each of them. So the message frameworks have to adapt to each of that block, because it's not the same to anyone. Of course, the media is going to be the first that you're going to think about, but you don't forget, at the same time, you don't forget your internal stakeholders, your recruits. That's what I was talking about. If the employees are not aligned with the same message, or if worse, if they get the message after the media or through the media, that's going to be really harmful, and you're going to lose your people's engagement, and really the bad reputation is very strong on that side too. So when to release the the media information. So it's after employees, because necessarily it's almost simultaneous, but a little bit employees have to get the feeling that they control, the company itself controls the matter and controls the messaging. So you're going to have employees first, and media, clients, shareholders, and so on after that. Who is going to speak? It can be the communication department will draft for a press release, of course, but if it has to be a spokesperson, also it has to be prepared, because it's not going to be the IT guy, even if it's an IT fact. It has to be someone who is taking a step ahead and managing the crisis, the messaging, really at a strategic level. And there's going to be an escalating communications process. So maybe not the CEO is going to talk first, because if it's so, it's going to look like it's very, very serious. But the more serious you get, the higher the rank of your spokesperson, of course. So communications rule. So when that map exists and is ready, cascading also will be simpler, because of course you're going to get emails to tell everyone, but communication systems by definition can be down. So of course, how are you going to tell everyone you're down if you're down? If the systems are. So that's where the preparedness is going to be key, because you're going to be counting on different persons in the company that will be able to directly contact by simple phone, or even by putting boards and sign in plants or in offices to physically tell people inside what's happening and what's going to be the steps, who to contact in the crisis management and in the IT management too. So think about that map as really the step to be organizing your different steps. Key messages, talking points also have to be really prepared. Of course, it's a crisis you haven't really planned, but in any crisis, you're going to get some things that's going to be similar. Going back to the Land Rover crisis, the cyber attack that began as an IT security event quickly became a national industrial shock, not only because of the facts, but also because the media exposure went very high and sustained. Like it was at least 20 to 30 major articles, more than 50 mentions across wires and trade and local media. So it's really harmful if you haven't planned that a little bit. But the company's official communication in that case has been pretty limited. They were going for 4 press releases, but so it's not because there are a lot of media exposure that it's meaning that the talk was intense, but it was at least not only one time, but strategically timed. The company first publicly confirmed the cyber incident, and then, contrarily to the Dutch Ministry of Finance, it later issued updates on containment and recovery, and then used formal disclosures around business impact and restart progress. So it was really important to be step by step reassuring and be as much as we could transparent about the business impact. And then it shifted towards the official intervention of the government, and we relied actually on that intervention and on that messaging from the British government. This is also something that can be helpful, even if it was so serious that going to that was pretty important. But it was a good strategy, if it was, but I think it was, I haven't been at Land Rover, but the official intervention then helps shifting to that official communiques, and then it releases the focus on the company itself. So it's also good to, in your ecosystem, to think about. I had the same in the energy sector, where we had a gas truck explosion, but actually instead of the transporter we managed not to get in on the front, but because it was managed by the risk public ministry in France, so we managed that that ministry took the leading role in messaging, so that the company was less armed and less exposed. So it's a strategy to also to think. So to go back to the narrative, so yes, acknowledge quickly, avoid the natural reaction of silence, and not over reassurance, but still communicate what is known and what is not yet known with a single consistent source of truth, which is where, for instance, a ready Q&A can be useful to spread into the company, so that in case of any breach of a media or any supplier customer asking, everyone is on the same page. And of course, coordinate with official institutions, legal and technical teams to avoid contradictions. So being fast, factual, consistent, this is that golden hour. That's going to be key. And that's how reputation is preserved, because whatever, of course, there might be technical damage, business damage, but that communication will show that you're handling the topic. And that's, of course, you cannot go back and erase the cyber attack totally, but the reputation is preserved by your acting on the public place and with your stakeholders. Excuse me.
Okay, Sophie, let's have a short.
I have to drink a little.
Yeah, drink a little, please. Thank you so much for this communication and reputational, framework. I like to come back to consequence of the cyber attack, because we discuss about this reputation, we discuss about the immediate operational interruption, and is in reputation the short term and the longer term, but I like to have a quick overview on the legal part, the legal framework, because I think that integrating the regulatory reality is something important. And acknowledge that the cyber attack is no longer just an IT disruption, but also a massive legal threat with the general management and the board responsibility is something that we have to consider now. I will show you, a slide just to illustrate what I like to share with you this morning, about this legal, okay, that's that one, It's the map monde, recognize that the right part of the slide, the American with USA, the China and Asia, and on the left part, the European. My first point is that if you consider the number of the law about cybersecurity in Europe is huge. It's huge. It's more than in Asia or as in USA, for example. Every country now has law and regulation about cybersecurity because it's a huge risk. But, I think that in Europe, we have more laws to protect or to try to protect our company and our government. You have, for example, DORA, which is specific for financial sector. We have what we call CRAS, Cyber Resilience Act for Connected Products, could be hardware and software. We have a new regulation called NIS2 and IS2, which will concern about 10,000 companies just in France, and you can see at European level it's huge. And also we have GDPR to protect our personal data. And you know that non-compliance with this kind of law could lead to severe sanction, including fines up to 2 or 4% of your global annual turnover. It's not only a legal issue with court and so on, but it's also a financial issue. And my point is, whatever your size, whatever the regulation you are facing in your country, it's important during the crisis, of course, to discuss with this agency in charge of cyber law to inform them that you are under a huge cyber attack. But it's also important in the anticipation phases, in the preparation phases, to have contact in this or with this organization which are responsible for this cyber law, to know the people and to know the way they work, to be confident during the crisis when you have to declare your incident. It's why I like to emphasize after this reputation and communication, not to forget the authority and the regulators in your map. Shown by Sophie, not to forget these people. But Sophie, perhaps you like to now. I think you feel better. You like to
yes, sure.
To your reputation.
Yes, maybe yes, you can also go maybe on next slide, because beyond that compliance and legal impact, as we were saying, so those legal impact is really part of the stakeholders approach, and it's after that golden hour. So this slide is in French, but you can see only with the line that it's not only about where the crisis is at the highest, then because of your golden hour communication and then your recovery narrative, you're gonna slow down the crisis and the reputation, the crisis, and you can see the regulation issue will last at least 6 months to 1 year, because it's going to be a lot of exchanges, and we know jurisdictions are quite slow, but so you got a short-term juridic, you got a long-term, and then in that last phase, and it can last until those 3 years, which looks huge, is that you're still going to have a communication issue, because that's where you're gonna have another pop out of okay, what happened, and media, they like to go back to ancient story to do updates, and also your suppliers will have to be reassured. So you're gonna have to release another statement, maybe months or not years after, maybe, but actually to or to make a success story of it also, because in communication we are not lying, we're just exploiting the good and the bad things the most for showing how the company learned, fixed the root causes, and how the company is actually more resilient than before. So that long-term impact has to be also considered in the communication. So maybe we'll almost conclude so that we can have more discussion and see if we have answered our questions. So the cybersecurity crisis compressed 3 timelines at the same into one. It's the operational disruption, the media exposure that comes by itself almost, even if you try not to talk, there will be some, and the stakeholder judgment. So those three circles have to be really considered together. So the action is about protect continuity first, because now you could ask more to Marie-Odile about that, because she's the cyber expert, and almost simultaneously, but second, to communicate. So then your first step is about having your stakeholders map ready. So anticipation is really key, and with that simple rule, communicate early, factually, and show the visible remediation at the same time, and each time that you have progress to show and to share. The organizations that perform well are those that integrate that communication governance upfront, so that all the C levels or managers are aware of those risks and how to manage them. So it's really about anticipation, also training spokespersons, training people to react and to cascade not only crisis management but communication with discipline messaging. Discipline is key in communication. It's not about saying anything. And treat reputation as a core asset, because it is not only in the everyday business, but in times of cyber threat that is around, as you were saying, Marie-Odile. It's not if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So how are you getting ready for this? What could you... Am I right, Marie-Odile, about that risk right, and that?
Thank you so much. And now, if you have any question, or I try to read the chat, to see there is first question.
Yeah, there were a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple. The first one: how can organization ensure cybersecurity, communication, and compliance team are aligned before a crisis? Not during one. It's a good point. That's preparation, it means preparation, and for that you need a sponsor. And my recommendation is to discuss that point at the top level of the company. Is not a technical issue, as we try to explain with Sophie. The point can be brought to the general management by the risk manager, by the CISO, by the IT manager, or by another function in the company. But it has to be discussed at the top level of the company to see that we have a sponsor on these topics responsible for that, with this preparation material, of course, for communication with these stakeholders maps, with the phone number and so on for each category of stakeholders. But you can also have, let's say, a quick a set of questions to help you to qualify the cyber attack, not only the technical parts, but also all the impacts. And it's helpful to have a list of questions to think about what will be the impact for business, what will be the impact for finance, what will be the impact for the image, what will be the impact and for all the topics you work with in your company. Preparation, it's very important. And
I could add about that preparation that as you were telling that you'll measure in advance what could be the impact on each line of business or on each topic of the company. In communications, you've got a brand reputation, you've got maybe a brand book, a manifest, so you got your own image. So you will have to ensure that in that crisis you don't just forget about everything about what your brand and your company is. You have to stay faithful to your brand identity. So that's where the preparation of the messaging is key, because you're going to make sure that what you are saying and the way you are saying it, the tone of voice, the style, the keywords are faithful to your brand image that you've already built, or that you at least that you would like to be, if you're not on such a topic beforehand. But at that point you will see, okay, how do I look like when we communicate about this? So it's still in preparation. It's also to be sure that you are talking from the right image, that your reputation is preserved as you had it before. That's also very important. The first practical steps. So I think we talked about that, like investigating, then ensure that people inside get the right information and the right not only the operations fixing, but also the right line of messaging. And then you're going to have to publicly acknowledge, either with the press release or, and at the same time, with your own suppliers, customers, through business managers, for instance, if the systems are down. So really ensure that if everyone is well prepared, that part is going to be quicker, of course, than if you have to just map everything at the same time.
I will add a practical advice. Try to gathering the people you need to manage a crisis. What we call a crisis unit or a crisis cell. It's between 8 or 10 people. The general manager, the financial manager, the communication manager, the sales manager, gathering them in a same room somewhere, and to work together to understand the crisis, based on the technical investigation done by your IT teams or IT provider, and after that take decision together. And trying to have this kind of short meeting, a crisis unit, a meeting is about 45 minutes or 1 hour, to try to understand together and to take decision together. And you have to have this kind of meeting morning, evening, lunchtime, this short meeting to share the situational map and take decision together. But it's important in the preparation phases to know who will be in this crisis unit, what kind of people, and you have to decide what will be your delegate. Because as I explained, the cyber crisis always arrive during the weekend or Friday evening, and perhaps the financial director is somewhere in vacation, or I don't know. And you must think about your delegate, in case you are off. That's important. It's very practical advice, but that's important before the crisis to decide this kind of tactical.
Especially, yes, if you don't have many communications means. So everything planned in advance, even the situation room. It's not, if you cannot tell the crisis team where you're going to meet because the emails are down, it's better to have that planned in advance. And in case of a huge crisis, communications crisis, you know you're going to meet there physically. Back to physical is always...
Paper and pen. And another point I like to share with you is about BCP, Business Continuity Plan. That's important also, whatever the type of crisis, but coming back to a cyber crisis, it's important to work on business continuity plan before the crisis, and to try to see how you can continue to deliver at least your strategic activities with no more IT, which not so simple, in some case. For example, if you are a bank or a financial company, it's quite impossible to deliver without IT. If you have a factory managed by IT, It could be complicated if you have no more IT to try to deliver your products as well. And defining your BCP based on different scenarios, including a cyber crisis scenario, is quite important, as well. But perhaps you have another question, because I think you...
Yes, maybe you can
Okay.
unmute.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Marie-Odile. It's been, I love the session. It's been really interesting. So actually, I have a small question. I don't know how, raise the hand myself. So we had a meeting, we have a workshop in the Risk In conference in Zurich, and the topic being that we've been affected by cyber attack, but not directly through our supplier. So the supplier been affected. We've been not sure if our operation been hit or not. We just like observing that something happened, but not sure. And actually, Stefan also shared that his hosting provider been affected. And the question mark, should we start like saying that our core supplier is affected, and then we feel like it could be like we also affected, for example, for our internal employee. So I mean, then we need to start communication. So then we already like in the fire or
that's
before?
a good question. Yeah, because about when you're not targeted, but there is, of course, a consequence, and I'd say the line is pretty simple. First, if that attack had already consequences because it touched your own systems, and they were so of course internally it's very important, because it's a step to see okay, next time it could be worse, maybe if not the customers or not the business itself is touched, but yet you cannot put that into silence, because it's already a step to acknowledge that you were aware, that you were controlling, actually managing your suppliers' security, and so internally I think the more, this is the rule about internal communications, but not a lot of CEOs apply that, unfortunately. But the more transparency is best, of course, when you have explanations and when you have steps to propose about fixing anything publicly. I'd say the other way around, because when you can put your brand behind and not on the front, it's better. You're not gonna if there aren't any consequences for your customers or people publicly affected, you don't want your brand to be taking the I'd say taking the bad reputation for another attack. So you may want the supplier himself to do his communications job, but internally people have to know. And of course, as soon as you have a potential risk, like the attack may, if you are investigating your customers I'd say data because they might be affected, there you still have to, whenever there's a threat over a stakeholder, whatever it is, you have to take the first step into and not going back after it's too late.
Yeah, I would say that depending on what kind of subco, if it's your IT provider as Microsoft or Oracle, which has been attacked, everybody is aware that or Google or whatever, everybody is aware that this big company is under attack, and it's already
public.
It's public. You can mention that due to the attack on counter, you work together, blah 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 blah, to try to solve that. You are so sorry and so on. But everybody is aware that they are under attack. Therefore, you can mention that.
Yeah, when it's already known that the public
and big company like Google and so on, you can.
Yeah, Cloudflare being also attacked very soon.
Everybody.
Yes, everybody knows it.
It's a pain.
Yes, everybody supposes that it's at risk in those cases. So that, yes, that's where you got to show that you're aware of that and you're taking action about that. That's where
maybe another question from my side as well, because in GCBR we also take responsibility to help small businesses to become more resilient. Maybe you have also some advices for small businesses who has no like a big team of 10 people to manage the crisis. So the whole team could be several people. So how to be more resilient versus cyber attacks and from the communication?
I would say regarding the IT parts, my recommendation is to have good provider for your IT, big company, well known and well organized to secure your business. Not to have your own IT system, but to have an IT provider which is well known and who has cyber security practices and so on. Now, what is important to say also is to say when you choose a provider, a subcontractor, IT or not IT, you can request to know that cybersecurity maturity. When you issue an RFP or so on, you could put some question in your RFP saying what is your level of cybersecurity maturity. Because and during the contract, you can say that you will audit your provider as well, to say they have the best practices in cybersecurity. That's for the IT and non-IT part also. have a good IT provider with a good contract to ensure that they have cybersecurity good practices, Perhaps, Sophie, regarding the communication, how to handle the communication part in case of cyber attack against this small company, you could add a point or you like to share your experience?
Yes, it's actually it's the matter has to be it's not always taken into account in communications plans. So that's the first flaw. Your chief communications officer or your communications manager, when you're a small company, you work on every topic from packaging to the plant visits to media management. So that topic is often put away because it doesn't look so important. So the CEO has to be sure that it's a high rank topic and that the communications plan take that into account. And if there's no communication plan, then still ask to the communication team, as small as it is, that the cyber risk is taken into account, because yes, for sure, it's not a communication topic by itself. So that's the point, and then to include the communications team in those crisis preparation and to ensure that on all communication, internal communications will help into also educate employees about the good practices, also in the cyber management, how make your company resilient by using communications to make people stronger in their practices about not opening suspicious emails or not sharing the change of password, such things. It sounds sometimes silly, but when the company states that as a policy and uses the internal communication to go on educate people, it makes it feel stronger, and it really helps too.
But cyber attack against a small company is really a huge point because some of them have been obliged to stop their business and to close the company due a cyber attack. Therefore, I think it's now in France and in other countries, we have specific program to educate the general manager of these small companies about this cyber risk and what they have to do to try to protect their business against that, because it could be a nightmare for a small business.
Yes, I agree, absolutely. We have a question from Sarah.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Hello. So first of all, thank you for this great session. And I would be very interested for the SMB part if you thought or considered in France a kind of infrastructural basement you can maybe regulated pursue these SMBs, because in the end, the people are not aware about cyber attacks and they do not have the knowledge and capabilities. 40% of all human beings are not aware of cyber threats at all. And the retention rate is around about 180 to 200 days before an encryption is really occurring in the system. So you cannot be prepared of it. You can just provide these SMBs maybe a small networking part or infrastructure that is regulated. Have you ever considered in France already about these options? Do you know about any studies?
I would say there are a lot of studies about this SMB topics, because it's absolutely an important point, what we try to do in France and in other countries, first is to educate people. And we know that in October, we have this cyber month now, trying to do education for people, not only for business, but B2C, B2B people to educate. We also educate in school and university. We try to educate young people about cyber security. But it's a large program, because you have to educate consumers, you have to educate students, you have to educate young people at school, you have to educate small business company, and for that we need programs, and it's why we have decided some years ago in France and now in Europe to have this cyber month in October with free material available for the National Cyber Agency France, ANSSI, and cyber malveillance and so on. Free material, it's video, it's game and so on, to educate people. And after that, we have also what we call a chambre de commerce, this kind of organization dedicated to help small company for their business, including IT, cyber, and so on, a specific program to educate people. We'll also educate with bank, now the bank do education for their clients, not only the consumer, but also the small and business company. For example, I work with a bank to educate their clients, their SMB clients on cyber security, to simulate a cyber risk and a cyber crisis and so on. I would say that it's a lot of different perspectives and initiatives to try to educate people. You have the technical part, and my best advice is to give your IT to an IT provider which is well known and well educated in cybersecurity. And after that, you have the overall education in cybersecurity. And my recommendation is to have this kind of program done by National Cyber Agency, bank, and so on, to educate people and the press and the media as well, to explain why, how, and what to do before and during the crisis.
And in internal, again, communications, you can use those programs or those information to put a regular topic in the monthly newsletter or in the CEO's business meeting to just keep on passing the message. that's also the in-house education, not to draft a program by itself, but to use for the external programs to really relay them in the company. That's very important too. Yes, Stephen?
I was just going to follow on from Sarah's comment. The state government in Sydney is now running audio advertisements specifically for small businesses to highlight phishing attacks and really helping people to think about what they're doing when they're at work and what they're opening, and trying to get your average worker who's got a laptop in front of them to get some knowledge about the dangers of opening strange things. So at least our state government has jumped on that for small business and is trying to educate people.
Thank you for the insight.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. So if we have no any other questions, so I would like to thank you to Sophie and Marie-Odile. Really enjoy the topic and the great speech and examples and the illustration. It was really very powerful start of the day for someone, for some finish maybe.
Thank you for attending from all over the time.
And thank you for your question and your interest to these important topics.
Thank
you
you
so much. Do not hesitate to connect us on LinkedIn and all. We could ask, share more about your specific needs or questions. Of course, we will. We are in the community too, so we'll be happy to go on the topic if you have specific issues or questions. Thank you again, Marina, for hosting us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, team.
Bye-bye.
I wish you a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.